Great. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jana Martin, Associate Director of the Language Institute at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And I'm very happy to welcome you to the second session of our Spring 2023 series of the Language Collaboratory. The Language Collaboratory is a partnership for the advancement of intercollegiate dialogue on the teaching of languages and cultures, driven by language centers and institutes at the University of Iowa, the University of Michigan, the University of Minnesota, Michigan State University, and the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Our aim is to provide collaborative professional learning opportunities for educators of language, culture, and literature at the 5 institutions. The Language Collaboratory Spring Sessions focus on situating language programs, language learning and instruction in a rapidly changing world society, responding to the needs and wants of spaces beyond the classroom. Specifically, our discussants are addressing ways of preparing students for success after they graduate, as well as increasing understanding of what success entails post-graduation. You're invited to contribute to what we hope will be a lively discussion. Next slide.
Thank you. Shall I introduce ourselves?
Well, I'll just do a little bit more here. So the sessions will be recorded and made available through the YouTube channel for the Language Collaboratory. And we encourage everyone to subscribe to our channel to receive updates when new content is available. We ask that you mute your mic at the outset, that you use the tools in Zoom to contribute questions and comments in the chat. During the open discussion period, please raise your hand virtually prior to activating your microphone. Closed captioning is available through the live transcript button in the Zoom menu bar. Today, we will hear from Claire Frances, Director of the Center for Language and Cultural Learning in the Division of World Languages, Literatures, and Cultures at the University of Iowa, and from Azul Trejo-Zetina, Graduate Assistant from the same center and university. The title of today's session is a Multilingual Oral History Project.
Thank you, Jana.
And I'm
you want to talk about this one?
Yep. Yeah, just okay, sorry to go a little more. We have a next session coming up. This will be on Thursday, April 20th at the same time. And on that date, we will welcome Parker Henry and Alyssa Troncoso, educational content developers at Duolingo. Their session is titled From Language Students to Duolinguists, and we hope you will be able to join us. And lastly, at the end of today's session, we will share a link and we'll invite you to provide feedback about today's session. So please consider providing your input. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Go ahead, Claire.
Okay, sorry for jumping the gun 3 times there, Jana. Thank you for introducing us. Well, thank you for coming. I'm going to, let's see, share my PowerPoint and tell you a little bit about this project that I've been working on for a couple of years. Hold on a second while I find my tools. Okay, so first of all, Azul, who's right below me on my screen, and I are going to talk about a multilingual storytelling project that we have been working on for this past year together, and which I've been working on for 2 years. So I'm going to start us out by just giving you an overview of what this is. This project is called Iowa Intersections, and it grew out of, in 2021, an idea from a faculty member, the director of the translation program here at Iowa, who had asked me if I would be interested in mapping the multilingual communities of Iowa City and doing a digital map. And when I started getting into mapping those multilingual communities of Iowa City, I quickly realized that they were co-located in a lot of cases and really didn't look like a great digital map because everything, all of the little pinpoints were right next to each other. And so I got it into my head that I wanted to do more of a Humans of New York kind of approach to mapping these multilingual communities of Iowa City. I started working with a graduate student who was in the translation program and who was also an intern for UNESCO City of Literature. The Iowa City is one of 52 cities of literature around UNESCO designated cities of literature around the world. And so that intern and that connection between translation and the city was really effective in sort of sketching out this project in the early days. And so in the fall of 2021, this student and I decided to just jump right into collecting stories from people around the community in their native languages. And we have a pretty large Latinx community, Congolese, West African, Togolese, as well as a Sudanese community in Iowa City. And so we cultivated a relationship with a local community college, and specifically their evening classes in ESL, and started, excuse me, apologize in advance for my coughing. And so we went to their evening ESL classes and started to recruit volunteers for this storytelling project. To be honest, we didn't have a really great idea of what we were going to do. We knew that this had some potential for use for a translation project, but also for use in language classes as, you know, sort of little vignettes that could be used to demonstrate real world language usage. And so we went to those classes and we recruited volunteers, and that semester we received 30 volunteers for that project. There were only 2 of us, and so we were a little bit overwhelmed with the interest, but we worked really hard to kind of collect stories. I hired an undergraduate student who was a cinema arts major to film some of the people who volunteered, and we started down this route of collecting, transcribing, translating, and editing short little films. And then we fast forward to last summer. So the summer of 22, we were continuing throughout the year, we continued to process those short films. And I had the great pleasure of working with a graduate student who was in the Spanish and Portuguese program, who started working on collecting stories with a community service organization that serves the Latinx community in Iowa City. And at that point, we started to really kind of refocus our methodology into learning more about oral history and figuring out how we could do this as an oral history project. And so that student collected a whole bunch of stories as well, and we started editing them and working on them. And then fast forward to this fall, I had the great honor of being able to work with Azul, who is here and will present a little bit more on the project, as well as Luke Whitaker, who is in the room as well. And Azul has become what I like to call the project director. She's really kind of brought structure and systems and processes and methods to our project. And it's been really great. And we've kind of grown as a team because in addition to Luke, we have about 3 other graduate students. And we've really kind of taken on this idea that we're going to collect these stories by using oral history methodologies. And so that's a grand overview of what this project is. It's the who, the what, and the when, and we'll get a little bit more into the why, but Azul is going to take it away and talk a little bit about the how. If I could advance. There we go.
Yeah, thank you, Claire, for the introduction. First, I wanted to talk a little bit about oral history as both a methodology and an archival product that shifts the focus from what we know as like capital H history to small h histories in an effort to bring recognition to groups of people who are often ignored, mainly the immigrant community. So immigrant voices have been historically marginalized due to language barriers, race, ethnicity, cultural norms, and fear. And 13.7% of Iowa City's residents were born outside of the United States, while 18.6% speak another language than English at home. And oral history as a practice starts with an interviewer recording a first-person account of an interviewee, and typically has as its end goal the shared commitment to create a record or an oral history that can aid in comprehending historical events from an individual's perspective. And while not rooted in a specific historical timeline or event, the Iowa Intersections Project seeks a range of first-person accounts from local immigrants, including stories about how and why they came to Iowa, descriptions of cultural traditions or important artifacts in their lives, stories that they want to preserve for their children, and a lot more than that. With this goal of recording the moments and experiences that make up a life, going back to history versus history, we aim to amplify voices and experiences that may feel small, but are invaluable to understanding the people who make up our community and for strengthening our human connection to one another through empathy. Collecting the stories from these virtually ignored groups in the languages that they've brought with them to Iowa is a way to not only document and preserve histories, contributing to the greater Iowa landscape, but also, and more importantly, to create cultural and linguistic artifacts that can help highlight the enriching nature of this language diversity. And this work builds upon existing oral history work, mainly in the Latinx community, with projects such as Latina Stories Across Ohio, Oral Histories of Latinos in Michigan, and more locally, the Mujeres Latinas project, which I can put in the chat in a bit if anyone wants to look at those. And we expand upon these initiatives in two main ways: by widening our language scope to different language communities, namely the Sudanese community served by neighborhood centers of Johnson County, and by using digital storytelling methodologies, mixing oral history practices with documentary work techniques, which includes bringing stories to life by combining audio elements, images, and video, such as in the University of Minnesota's Immigration History Research Center's Immigrant Stories collection. And we center it in the Division of World Languages, Literatures, and Cultures here at the University of Iowa as community engaged humanities scholarship focused on language, specifically Spanish, Arabic, and French for now. These are the community partners that we've had the pleasure of collaborating with so far. The top three: Kirkwood Community College, Open Heartland, and NCJC are where we've already collected stories or are in the process of collecting them now. UNESCO City of Literature's role has taken the shape of a graduate internship, like Claire had mentioned, and a connection to other cities of literature. There are 3 European cities of literature that are currently spearheading the Story Valley project, which is similarly using oral history to preserve cultural heritage. And not included on this slide is another campus partner that I wanted to mention, our digital humanities librarian, who has helped make our website possible, which officially launched today. So it'll be a nice segue into the website.
Great. So what we're doing currently, as Azul mentioned, is we're currently working with the neighborhood centers of Johnson County, and I'm just going to land on that for a little bit because we had the opportunity to apply for an on-campus grant to support community engaged scholarship. And so we cultivated this relationship with the neighborhood centers of Johnson County and started to figure out ways that we could work with them to do the storytelling project before we get the grant, which presumably we're hopeful we'll get in by the end of the semester. And so what we've been doing in the past couple of weeks is we've gone to an after-school program that they have there that is predominantly first-generation Sudanese kids who are around 10 or 12 years old. And we work with them on creating digital stories using the Who Am I poem template. If you're familiar with that, it's kind of a fill in the blank. You put 2 adjectives, I am this, I am that. And so we worked on them to fill out these poem templates and then to collect images and videos and audio files to then build that into a little digital story. And our plan is to go back again. This is a workshop that we're doing for the entire month or past couple of weeks and a couple more weeks. And we're going to go back and work with them so that they become little oral historians and they interview their parents, hopefully in Arabic. And so we're going to work with them this week on getting them kind of ready to take. We have a different template. It's the where I am from poem template, and they're going to use that. We have it translated into Arabic and work with their parents on collecting their parents' stories. So we are getting ahead of the grant a little bit. But what I wanted to talk about is what we're doing as a grant is that we have 4 major research questions that we're looking at in our which are all falling under the rubric of scholarship of engagement. So our goal through this project, particularly working with the neighborhood centers of Johnson County and collaborating with the School of Library Science, is to research these 4 questions. So we will be collaborating and doing participatory research or participatory activities, reciprocal kind of activities with the community center, but also researching our activities at the same time, so that we'll be doing mixed methods, methodologies mostly through surveys and focus groups and interviews to try to understand how participating in oral history can help to preserve cultural identities, further cement familial ties, like those kids working with their parents and cross-cultural communication. And that piece kind of builds upon something that that neighborhood center was doing already. Is they had a program called Building Our Sudanese Families, because as we all know, and as generations of immigrant families come in, there's this loss of culture. And so this kind of idea that the kids will interview their parents and connect through the storytelling is one of our hopes. And then we have the 2 last questions are sort of pedagogical questions for the graduate students who are involved in this project. So in parallel, I'm working on a humanities lab on the concept of linguistic justice. And we all are becoming more and more familiar with the idea of teaching language through the lens of social justice. And so these kinds of questions of how can we use storytelling in our pedagogies going forward, how can we create communities that are linguistically just, that put these voices on the map, so to speak, and then we take those pedagogies into our classroom. And then my colleague in the library also has similar questions, is how can library professionals use oral history collection and storytelling practices to uphold the agency of migrants? And so these are our research questions for our, oops, there we go, do it again. And now I'm going to show you, hopefully this will work. Whoops, there we go. This is our website that just launched today. And so we can put that, that link in the chat as well. So we have the definition.
Grace, sorry to interrupt. We are still looking at your PowerPoint. I think you need to exit out and reshare if you're on Chrome or some website. Thank you.
Okay, I put it in the chat, and I will open up in Chrome. Let's see. Zipping between things is always fun. So here is our website. Can you see it now? Yes, good. So we have our logo, which took a long, that's also work as well, is to develop this logo. And we developed this website with the libraries. And so this is an archival website where we have a featured story. This is one from that Kirkwood Community College. It's a really interesting story in French about this young man who arrived at the airport and nobody was there to pick him up. And he tells the story of being anxious about being alone in an airport in America, his first time here, and the police come to ask him what's going on. And he's afraid of the cops because of everything he's seen on the television back home in Congo. So we have some different languages and stories that we've collected stories from, and we're adding more every day, hopefully, right? Especially these kids' stories, we're looking forward to that. So that is our website. Azul, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I don't know if you had anything else to share about the website.
If you get a chance to click on the link and kind of go through it, I would like to mention that in the homepage, like you saw, we have our growing repertoire of languages, but also like by countries and regions and by projects, which is slowly but surely growing. In our about page, we have like a brief description of the project, our mission and the outcome, which will be the digital stories. And in the contact us page, is where we are reaching out to volunteers that would be willing to work on this project and get involved with the different steps of collecting the stories, of editing, things like that. But also with organizations that would like to collaborate with us, if they work with these language communities, and also reaching out to individual storytellers who would like to share their stories with us. Yeah, that's all I had on the website.
So, sorry, my mouse pad was a little bit touchy. So, as I said from the outset, there's an interest in leveraging these stories in a language class, and these are some of the ways. I'm sure we could brainstorm some other ones. Obviously, there are ways to look for new vocabulary and idiomatic expressions, looking at them with past tense, listening comprehension activities. And then one of the more important ones is the intercultural competence, I think, that students can get from potentially being involved in this project. We have currently one undergraduate involved with us, but eventually the hope is that we would create this or build it into an existing course like Spanish in the community, or another, a differentiated course that would be fewer credits. And then we could really work on using these stories for intercultural competencies. So the final slide I have here, and this can open up our discussion, and why it's important to do this kind of work. I think we have this opportunity to listen and reflect and see and observe what's going on in our community and our local communities with this project. Again, the intercultural communicative competence, where students take ownership of their learning and participating in the project, and the community members then become partners who teach about their own life experience. And the real world language learning, I think this is my last thought, is not just about using language in context, but also about coming to understand the real world and the kinds of structural inequities that immigrants face. And I will stop the big Iowa and take your questions.
Thank you very much, Claire, for working on this important project. Also, thank you, Azul, and also there was Luke, I believe, right?
Yes.
So,
Lucas.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Great work. So please, join me in appreciating your work, and also please ask us questions, or ask Claire questions or Azul by raising your hand, or just pop it in a chat.
Well, people are thinking about questions. I'm just going to take a second to invite everyone to provide feedback for our session, and I will be posting the link to our feedback form in the chat. So please consider leaving your feedback for us.
And if I may, I might start with a question. I don't know, probably to all of you. What did you find as the most challenging part of this project? It can be anything about, putting it together, working out the details, being out there in the community or whatnot. What was the most challenging part?
I think the most challenging part is processing the audio files or all of our materials into a short digital story. doing the film editing. It's time consuming. We have a small team. Azul is very skilled at Premiere, and Luke is getting there, and we have a couple of other people. But you know, when you're also running a center and doing a whole bunch of other, wearing a whole bunch of other little hats, it's very difficult to keep going. That, for me, I think that's the most difficult thing. I think another challenge we've had is finding community partners, because they are equally busy, if not more so, and they don't have the bandwidth to kind of figure out what it is that you really want to do. So we were lucky enough to stumble upon this neighborhood center that saw the value in this. And in fact, the project itself fits in with their vision statement, which has something like they want to elevate all of the voices of their community. And so really, it's just a perfect way that we're collaborating with them. And by doing these videos with the kids, we're going to be able to offer them something that they can put on their website that showcases the kids and who they, in their self-presentation, who they are, and then also the other stories. So we're able to share the videos with them is the idea.
I was wondering if you had some people interested in participating, but not interested in being on the website, you know, being, being an act, you know, I don't know what to call it.
Right. So we have a consent form that we will have people sign once we get their videos, once we create them and edit them and are ready to put them up, and they can rescind their consent at any time.
We also have had the option for some people who don't feel comfortable being on camera to just do kind of like the voiceover narration and add visuals to that from like other things, so that they're comfortable with it being a little more public without necessarily putting their face out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Azul. Diana?
Hi, this is amazing work. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. I was wondering how you and the libraries are thinking about disseminating this, about getting it out then, since people won't necessarily just find your website. Do you have a plan for like working with local media outlets or your university's communication offices to spread word about this awesome project?
Yeah, that's a great question. So today was our official launch of the website, and it's still pretty bare bones. So we're launched, but we know that we need to put so many more stories up there. But that could be a communications campaign. But I think your question speaks to the library's role, and I think that's a really important one. We have a brand new director of the College of Library Sciences, and she is very committed to social justice work and librarianship. And so we have talked about developing workshops in the community for sharing, for story sharing, and also through the UNESCO City of Literature pipeline, we have the ability to share within the greater Iowa City community, and then of course internationally, potentially. We have a book festival here every year in Iowa City, hosted by UNESCO City of Literature, and we were invited to present there last year. We only had a couple of people in our audience, but I think as we are growing, this is only a 2-year-old project, and so it's been kind of amazing what we've been able to achieve within those 2 years. But yes, absolutely. I think the connection with the library, was really a good one because of that possibility for dissemination.
Yeah, agree. Super smart, as Diana says. Yes, and so sorry to interrupt now. We have reached the hour, and we will turn the recording off now.